So, this class is the practical application class for creative writing, focused on science fiction fantasy. I took a lot of courses during my university career. I got bachelor's and master's both from BYU. So I know a lot about how at least BYU approaches this. And my classes are very useful for me. However, one thing we didn't get was a lot of the practical application, writing in the real world. In other words, writing for filthy lucre, right? We would spend a lot of time doing what I call bird by bird writing discussions. You know what bird by bird is? It's this book about writing that talks about, exploring your inner monologue and finding all this stuff, and it's actually a really good book. But it's a lot of this sort of English major, we dance through tulips and talk about our feelings stuff, right? Which, exploring our inner narrative is really important. I hope you take a lot of those classes and you discuss these things. We're going to talk about how to make money off of it, really. I describe it this way. And when I'm writing, as a writer, you really actually need to have multiple brains, or at least multiple hats. And you are an artist, and your artistic expression is very important. You are also a craftsperson. As I discussed last week, becoming a talented writer is about more than creating one great work. It's about turning yourself into a writer through practice over time. That's the craftsman part of it. You are also a business person. And the business person's job is to say, remember, we're pretending you all want to do this full time, is to say, oh, that artistic expression is wonderful. I'm glad you're happy. Artistic expression doesn't feed you. We need to find a way to exploit this in any way possible so that you can have more food, so you can continue to dance through tulips and have artistic expression. And so a lot of the things I'm going to talk about in this class are talking more about the craftsman and about the business person than about the first person, the artist. One of the reasons for this is, number one, I don't think a lot of the courses talk about those two as much as they talk about the first one. Go ahead and find a chair somewhere. There's a seat over here that's empty. You're always welcome to grab a chair somewhere. Corbin, where did you find that chair? V112 has chairs that have others. You can just grab and bring in, yeah.
The syllabus still going around, or did they get all taken?
I have no idea.
I
think they might have gotten taken, but if you email Isaac, he'll send you one.
Okay, great, thank you.
So yeah, it was right over there. Hey, let me see that shirt. What's that? Is that a Mistborn shirt? Hey! Oh, the teacher! Wearing Brandon Sanderson swag does not get you extra credit, because there is none, because it's pass-fail. Well, not technically pass-fail, I guess, but yeah. So, number one, a lot of the other courses talk a lot about this, and they don't talk a lot about the craftsperson or the business person. The other thing is, I'm not sure how to teach you to express yourself artistically, right? That is something inside of you. People will ask me a lot, how do I develop my voice? And they're using the capital V voice, right? And I say, you write a lot and it comes naturally. And that's not the answer that they want, because they want to know how to create a specific style unto themselves. I'm not going to talk a lot about creating a specific style in yourself. I'm going to talk about sympathetic characters, engaging plots, how to read a contract. We're going to talk about these things, but I don't want you, I guess the point of this preface is, don't downplay the importance of the artist. You need to be writing what makes you excited, what makes you eager to write more, what makes you express what's inside of you. These are perhaps the most important things for you to be doing. The rest of this is to make certain that what you see inside comes out. This is to make sure that if your goal is to publish, that you will have the tools necessary to do that. I used the metaphor, I don't think I used this last week, I used it before, of myself as a high school student playing the trumpet. Anyone here play trumpet? All right, nice. We could totally form a marching band. Trumpeters write science fiction fantasy, I guess. I played trumpet all through high school. And did I tell you guys about this? My last year I decided I wanted to take jazz band. I'm like, I know how to play the trumpet. I like jazz music. these two things should go together. And I took jazz band for a year, and I could not improv for the life of me. It was terribly hard. Anyone do this here? Some of you maybe? I mean, it was so hard, and it was really frustrating. The reason why it was frustrating was that I could hear in my head these cool improv licks, right? But I couldn't make them come out the front of the horn. I'm like, I'm a good trumpet player. I've been playing for 7 years. Why can't I do this? And I went to my teacher. He's like, well, you just need to practice and practice and practice your scales until they become second nature, and then they'll start coming out. So this artistic expression, this idea of jazz, which is supposed to be like super free and loose and do whatever you want to, has its foundation in these very strict forms. And that's what we're going to be talking about, are these kind of strict forms. We'll talk about things like 3-act format, or the try-fail cycles. You have to understand these are like the scales that a trumpeter will learn. Not every one of them is going to apply for every song. These are things you're going to riff off of and you're going to make use of. They may seem kind of stale sometimes when we talk about them. When we talk about, the archetypes versus stereotypes and things like this. I want you to be aware of this and know your job is to learn to play jazz. The jazz is your free-form writing. These are the tools that people use to write this. All right? So, I often say that as a writer, what I do is when I'm picking a piece to work on, I'll work on whatever my heart desires. I don't look at the market. I don't decide, is this going to sell? Then as soon as I'm done, the business person locks the artist in the closet, cackles, running away with the manuscript, and then finds any way possible to convince as many people as possible to give him money for that. And that's what we're going to do. So, storytelling. Storytelling. How do you write a good story? Well, it's not that easy in a lot of ways, and in some ways it is. Hopefully it's not that easy because I have 14 weeks worth of material to give you, so I have to have something to talk about. I personally break out stories into 3 general pieces when I'm breaking them apart. We have plot, we have setting, and we have character. These are held together, for me, by a glue of conflict. All right? So if we're going to write good stories, our forms, our scales are learning what makes an engaging plot that people want to read about, learning what makes a character that is somebody that we want to read more about, that drives us through the story, and a setting that is interesting and engaging. And all 3 of these things have certain archetypes to go with them and whatnot. Again, conflict is the glue that holds them together. Today I'm going to try to mostly talk about an overview about these sorts of things. And then each week we will pick one of these things and dig in deeply. Usually I do 2 weeks on each of these things, where we dig in deeply. So, conflict. Let's talk about conflict today. Why do I use it this way? Let's just go ahead and have a discussion about it. Conflict. Why is conflict the glue that holds us together? What do I mean? Anyone got any ideas? Go for it. You've taken the class before, you're cheating. Yeah, you totally can. Go ahead. Okay.
No one likes a story where nothing happens.
Okay, nobody likes a story where nothing happens. Nothing happens. There's the old adage, how does it go? The king died, it's not a story. The king died and then the queen died of grief is a story. Because the king being dead is not a conflict, but the queen's conflict and struggle with her grief is potentially a story. I don't know if that's true, but it kind of gets this idea across. Yeah?
I think conflict is a huge part of the human condition, and
Okay.
so the reader's not going to be able to relate as much if there's no conflict.
Okay, all right, awesome. What else do we got? Thoughts about conflict?
If there's no conflict, there's no motivation for the characters to change. And static characters are incredibly boring.
Right. Usually for a story to work, what you're going to want, and this thing does not hook into the back of my pen, and it really bugs me, because I normally go like that over and over again. This is an effective whiteboard marker. Normally, in order to, when we have a story is about what somebody wants and why they can't have it. Was it Kurt Vonnegut that said, the best piece of writing advice I can give is have your character start out desperately wanting something, even if it's just a cup of water? I'm horribly misquoting him, but I think it was Kurt Vonnegut. The idea for this is that if your character wants something but can't have it for some reason, you have immediate sympathy for that character and immediate telegraphing to the reader what's going to happen. A lot of what's going on with plot, the idea here, is you are telegraphing to the reader what the story is going to be about. Plot, in many ways, is about making promises to the reader and then fulfilling them in unexpected yet satisfying ways. When you pick up a Jane Austen novel, you know very early on you are being promised that this is a story primarily about a relationship between two characters. And you're being promised that your resolution of that plot is going to give you fulfillment for those two characters. A problem that a lot of new writers make early on is they make the wrong promises. Early in their story, they indicate this is going to be action-adventure, and then it transforms into something else. Or they say this is really going to be a mystery, but they don't lay the groundwork for mystery. They don't understand what the big questions of their plot, what it's going to be about, and what the promises the readers are making. With character, usually what we're looking for is someone relatable. Now, this doesn't impact all different types of storytelling. You will tell stories about characters who are unrelatable and unsympathetic. It does happen. It is very hard to do. And usually, when you are successful, people don't like your book. All right? Now, that can be a great triumph of writing, and it can be exactly what you want to do. It doesn't mean they'll like it anymore. It does not mean that the character has to be a good guy, quote unquote. It means they have to have qualities that drive a story and make people want to read about them. Usually this means that they are going to be sympathetic in some way, meaning that they are going to be like us in some way. It means that they are going to, as Howard Taylor, my friend, likes to put, they are going to protag. I've always liked the way he said that. They are protagonists and they protag. They are active, in other words. They are doing things. And it usually means they're going to have some level of competence. And often, a lot of characters, you'll get two of the three. And then they'll be failing in the other one. And those make very strong characters. For instance, you can probably think of people who are very active and very competent, but who are not very nice people. And a lot of those stories can be really strong stories. You can probably think of people who are sympathetic and competent, but then don't actually want to protag. Bilbo Baggins is a good example of this. You can probably think of people who are sympathetic and active, but completely incompetent. Harry Potter. I would probably, yes, Harry Potter's a good example. We laugh at that, but if you look at Harry Potter, a lot of times these really competent people are around him, and what he has is this. He wants to do it. He wants to go and change the world. He wants to fight Voldemort. He's got the protagging down. I was going to use Inspector Gadget, but Harry Potter probably is a better example of that. So, two of the three. When you get into all three, you suddenly end up into kind of these characters like James Bond, who are kind of, the books are about how awesome they are, and they continue to be awesome through the course of the book, and then lo and behold, look at the end, they're awesome. Big example of this lately is Dirk Pitt, if you've ever read any of those. He's sympathetic protagonist and extremely competent, and you know, those books work just fine. You can sometimes do one of the three. That's where you get into some danger where a character is going to end up being not as interesting to write about. So we'll dig into that quite a bit. Setting. Let's talk about the idea of a setting. Because even if you are not writing science fiction and fantasy, you are going to get across a setting to your reader. And how much of a setting you get across is really up to you. But you are going to create the laws of your universe. I go back to Jane Austen on this. Jane Austen's world is in some ways, no less a fantasy land than The Wheel of Time. is, because she has set up certain rules and laws, and they are fulfilled as the course of the book, and she keeps to her own rules. So setting includes all the sorts of things about kind of the laws, and I'm not talking about magic, always there. It will include the magic, but I'm talking about the theme of your book, the laws of what the style of your book is, and how you make your setting get that across. For instance, I tend to write a lot of epic fantasy. And in epic fantasy, one of the kind of setting concepts is immersion, where I try to do everything I can to pull you in and make you feel that this world is real. That works for those types of books. There are plenty of stories that don't try to do this, that don't worry about pulling you in with immersion, and they want the setting to be background to plot and character. It's really how you want to do it, and their setting, in a lot of ways, is just a lighter brush. It's not that they're ignoring it, it's that they're choosing things that therefore are not distracting. So it's your setting is that, and in sci-fi fantasy in particular, since this is a class about it, it's going to include all of the sorts of things that are different from our world that you're going to have to get across to people. All right? This is what your story's about, and what you're going to do is you're going to try to find the conflict in these things. In a few minutes, we're going to talk about the concept of brainstorming and building a story. But the idea is you are looking for stories in these things. So what do people want? What's wrong? How can we build a story out of the intersection of these? Is there a problem between the character and the setting? Meaning, you can probably think of a bunch of ways that the character is saying, I'm not just talking man versus nature, but of course that works if you're looking at something like the Pern books, where this awful stuff is falling from the sky and everyone's going to die unless we fight it. But it can be something more along the lines of, my character is a heretic in a world of believers, or things like that. Conflicts between characters, conflict between character and plot. I would suggest that The Hobbit is kind of a conflict between character and plot. You need to go do this. I don't want to. That is the foundation of epic fantasy through the 80s, right? Go save the world. I don't wanna. That's where all these books came from. And so you're going to just be looking for these things. I do like to start classes early on by talking about the concept of brainstorming. In that you're all starting, hopefully have just started, some new story. Maybe it's one you've been planning for a while. Maybe it's not. Maybe you're like, great, I've got to write something for this class. I have no idea what I'm doing. Thanks a lot, Sanderson. And so I want to do today some brainstorming where we talk about methods that we devise stories, where we look for this conflict and we try to build a story. And so we're going to do this. There is one more thing I want to talk about over here that isn't kind of in my diagram here. I'm not sure how it fits, but this is the prose, which is important. And I will probably spend a week talking about actual prose and writing. One thing you will have to decide for your story is what type of prose you want to use. And this kind of plays into that whole style thing that I was getting into. Most of the time this will come naturally to you, but there are some decisions you'll have to make. You'll have to decide things like viewpoint. And you'll have to decide things like tense. And you will have to decide where you fall on the floweriness scale. Floweriness. Yeah, that's a scale. Totally. We talk about that in English class all the time. Yeah, floweriness scale. You're going to have to make some decisions like this. A lot of this will come naturally to you, but I do want to give you some tools to use here. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well. But let's go ahead and do the brainstorm. Because I want to kind of get the creative juices flowing, and I want to give those who might be having problems something to write about. Okay? So, let's see here. Why don't we do 4 characters? And we're going to start with characters, because with brainstorming, sometimes it's easier to do that, to start with the characters. However, People always ask me, do you start with the plot, the setting, or the character? I start with whichever one is most interesting to me at the time. And usually what I've got going on is I'm looking for interesting ideas. We talked last week about the idea that a cool idea does not make a story. A great storyteller makes a great story. But I think the best books come when you have a couple of interesting idea hooks for yourself for each element of your story. For a novel or for a novella or writing a novella, I would suggest that you be looking for at least, say, 2 character hooks, one for each major character of your novella, 1 plot hook, and 1 setting hook. And you're going to combine these things. And what I mean by those are, well, look about here. The plot hook is what type of archetype of story am I going to tell? Is this going to primarily be a mystery? Is it going to be an information style plot where I'm going to slowly reveal pieces of information, which is what's going to drive the story? Is it going to be a relationship, either between 2 friends or between a romantic entanglement or 2 siblings, where how they relate to each other and the changes across the course of their relationship is what's going to drive the plot? You're looking for what's going to change to create your plot from the beginning to the end. And for a novella, you usually want one of these. For a large form novel, you will probably want a couple of these, maybe, a bunch. But you want one major one for what we're doing. And so you're going to decide, okay, what is it going to be? And the idea is you're going to kind of create this arc that relates directly to the type of plot it is. If it's a travel log, meaning our plot is we have to get from here to here without being eaten by the monsters, or we have to get to here before the city explodes that we're getting to, or whatever it is, then it's a very easy, you can see the pieces of your plot because they're going to be, we start here and we end here. What's your beginning and your end? What's going to change along the way? That'll decide your type of plot. For setting, I usually am looking for something visually or magically interesting about the world. A cool magic I can play with, a cool setting element of some sort, a cool culture, a cool religion. Something about this when the reader picks it up and has read a few pages and say, that's an interesting place. I've never read about something like this before. And then for character, it's going to come down to the idea of what the character wants. An interesting desire, an interesting conflict, an interesting even past. For years, I wanted to tell a story about a surgeon in a fantasy world. And this went through many iterations in my head until, through many changes, it became Kaladin, who was the son of a surgeon, got recruited to fight as an infantryman. And this hook for who he was something that was very interesting to me. The idea of medicine in a medieval or really more like Renaissance era world versus the conflict of my father trained me to do one thing and now it makes me actually really good at killing people. These were really cool conflicts for me. So that's a character hook for me. Another character hook can simply be the emperor killed my wife. I'm going to rob him silly. That's a character hook for me. Something that somebody wants and they're going to do. Something that's going to force them to protag, so to speak. I'm sorry that word is so silly. Blame Howard. All right? So, for your novella, be thinking about these things. And we're just going to start with some characters here. And we're going to use the contrast between characters to help us look for seeds of things like this. All right? So I want some ages of various characters. So, yes?
65.
65. Okay. 17. 9.
4.
20.
We're going to do 97 because 2 would be so hard. But actually, no. We're gonna do the hard one. We're gonna do a 2-year-old. We're gonna do a 2-year-old. But we're gonna have to have some twist on that 2-year-old. Okay. All right. 65-year-old man or woman? Man. 17-year-old?
Girl.
Woman. 9-year-old? Girl. 2-year-old? Boy. All right. Now, you can find online all kinds of what we call them as dossiers. It's a French word, I don't know how to spell it. And these are lists of questions to ask yourselves about your characters. I don't do this. Some authors swear by it. I want to offer it to you as a tool because we're going to kind of use the dossier method on these a little bit. We're going to ask some questions about these characters. We're going to brainstorm answers, and then we're going to try and find connections between them. It is one way to very quickly generate some interesting characters. And so I am going to, we're going to divide, let's see. So one of these is an urban fantasy. Which one is it? So let's, you already answered one. Someone else. Raise your hand. Someone. Oh, yeah.
The dog.
The dog is an urban fantasy. Okay. All right. One is a straight-up epic. Which one's straight-up epic? 17-year-old woman is epic. All right. One of these is far future science fiction. 9-year-old SF. Okay. All right. What's the 65-year-old man?
Romance. Steampunk romance.
All right. You guys are going to have to do some work. I have read a teen romance about an elderly person. It's called Howl's Moving Castle. Right? You would say, no, you can't write that, but it is a teenage girl in an old woman's body, and it is a fantastic novel, and it breaks these conventions and immediately gives you a character hook. When you say, this is a teen romance about a teenage girl who becomes, you know, middle-aged to older woman, I think she's old, I think she's like 70 or something, who falls in love with a younger person, that right there is a character hook and a plot hook. You're promising a romance, and you're promising what the character's going to deal with. So that's why, see what we're doing here? We are looking for these things that you can flesh out a story around. Now that's not everything about Howl's Moving Castle, right? That's only one little hook about Howl's Moving Castle. But you can see how you can take that and expand that and say, wow, this is where my story's going to go. I need this seed. All right, so let's talk about jobs, all right? Let me ask you, the 60-year-old, 5-year-old man in the teen romance,
Ex-pirate, blacksmith.
No more from you. All right. Yes, I know. The epic fantasy. Unusual job for a woman in epic fantasy. What's that? Assassin? We could do assassin. What's that? It's not unusual. Come on, give me an unusual job.
She's a ghost.
Okay, she's a ghost. That's not a job. What's her job? What's her job? Unusual job. Come on.
Job for hire.
Train operator in a steampunk.
Okay, steampunk epic fantasy train operator. All right, we can go with this. She's on the epic steampunk. And she drives the ghost train. What does this ghost train do?
Ferry souls to the next world.
Ferry souls to the next world. Okay, I like this. Okay, that's actually kind of cool, right? So we've got, so I'm going to go ahead and say she's the apprentice. Because being the apprentice gives us more of this. There's a place to go, right? Anytime we have a place to go, this is why you see apprentices so often. You don't have to do it necessarily. Well, we've got 17-year-old woman. I like the idea. You can go so many different places with the story. We'll ask more questions, but the idea could be, all right, paragraph 1, she dies, right? You kill her, and page 1, she dies. And for whatever reason is made the apprentice to the ghost train operator, right? This is immediate hook, immediate character conflict. I'm dead. This sucks, but it sucks even more over there where we're delivering these people, so I've got to learn how to do this apprenticeship so that I don't have to go to that place or something like this, right? We've got things. All right, science fiction, 9-year-old girl, yes?
Has yet to be assigned a job by her society.
All right, has yet to be assigned. Yeah, have to take a new tack on the giver, definitely. All right, the dog. All right, in the back.
Editor of a newspaper.
Editor of the newspaper. Okay, all right. All right, person who gave us this. Is the dog been uplifted? The dog have human intelligence, I assume?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got an intelligent dog. How old is dog? Is 2 in dog years?
14.
14. So this is a teenage reporter dog. I'm gonna go reporter.
So he's gotta be a
Didn't
superhero?
he wants to. Why did I make him a reporter instead of an editor? Because the reporter protags, right? The reporter's going to be out there. Now you can say he's the editor and he has to go on his own missions and things, but I'm looking for ways, and if you really wanted to tell the story about the editor, go ahead. But I'm trying to take the tack that is going to give us characters that are going to be forced to go do things, rather than not do things, okay? Yes?
He just tells everyone that it's the newspaper. It's really his little lead.
Isn't that dog with a blog though?
Okay, so you want it to be, instead of newspaper, you want it to be his own, personal webzine thing or something? Maybe newspaper or webzine. I don't know. We'll see where we go on that. Okay. Our next pirate. Okay, so next pirate in the teen romance. How are you going to make this a teen romance? Okay. He's seeking immortality. Okay.
Make that eternal youth.
Okay, so we're going to do the reverse of the sort of thing with Houseman and Castle. He ends up getting young. Are you guys cool with this?
Or she gets old.
Made young. That seems a little obvious to me.
Yeah, right.
We can totally go with that. Let's brainstorm another direction.
So
Just
like
to see.
I was saying, rather than he becomes young, she becomes old, and like that's the prime age. I don't know.
Okay, 65 is young. 65 is young, okay.
There's some sort of injury that sets him back, so like he's sort of mentally retarded or something.
Okay. You can totally do that. Deciding, like it's the difference between 17 and 65. And mental competence, I mean, there are differences, but yeah, it's going to be, I don't even know what, we're not going to go there. You can go there, yes. Yeah.
Maybe the romance is his daughter and her boyfriend, but it's from his point of view. So
Okay. Romance is daughter and boyfriend.
He's actually Jean Valjean watching.
the boyfriend is the son.
All right, I'm not feeling this one yet. Somebody have other things for it. Let's go over here to you two. We'll go to both of you.
In memories, like it's like his recalling the past.
Okay, so it's like a story.
Like the Notebook.
Oh, what? Woo. Here's an idea. All right, here's a weird, I'll let you go in a second. Here's a weird idea. What if he screwed up romance when he was 17, and he's going to go back in time and try to make his 17-year-old self fall in love with the right woman? That's not bad. That could be cool. Yes, okay. Oh no, I think we're going to go with this. He is an ex-pirate.
The captain of his old pirate crew in a time loop.
Yeah, something like that. Like where he is, it's not him going back into his body, because that's been done before. He is actually going to try to make his younger self have his life work out well this time by going back to time and forcing it. What did you have? Is there something we can Really? I totally think mine melded. All right, this one's finally working for me. I like that idea. So we've got a story here. This is an interesting story. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're going to do another list of dossier. Now, these are all things that we're going to do that we do not have to incorporate into our story, but I want to try and push this a little bit further and see where we can go for it. So I'm going to ask for a dark secret on each of these people, something that they would not want to tell anyone else. It does not have to be related to the other things. In fact, sometimes it's better if it's not, and then we find out what the relationship is. So what are they hiding? All right, right here.
He killed her in the past,
Yes.
and that's why he has to go back.
Ah. Okay, he killed her. All right. Nice. All right. So Ghost Train Girl. What is, yeah.
The reason she doesn't want to go to the next world is because someone she affected is there and she doesn't want to have to face them again.
Okay, okay.
The girl killed by the ex-pirate.
These could be in the same story. Way in the back there.
I was going to suggest she's not actually dead. She's on life support.
Okay, she's in life support. Okay.
Why she came into the afterlife?
Ah. That's actually pretty good. She's on steampunk life support. You can actually transition this one out of steampunk into any of these genres you want to go. We haven't done anything that's really steampunky on it, so it's certainly okay. I like that. Okay, Dark Secret, 9-year-old girl. We don't have a story for her yet, right? She's 9-year-old. She's yet to be assigned her job. What's quirky about this society that you haven't seen done before? Just give me random stuff.
Children
Yeah.
are raised by robots.
Children are raised by. That's how you couldn't talk more. You have to.
Sorry, they're good.
I'm glad other people talk to you though. All right, what do you got in the back?
If she doesn't get a job by 10, she's dead.
All right, you don't get a job, you're executed.
I was gonna say, the society's actually not dystopian, it actually works for once.
Okay. All right. Versus dead by 10. All right, you kind of have to pick one of those two, right? I'm kind of with you just because the whole dystopia thing is such a rage right now. Everybody dies by the time they're 10 if they, I don't know, and that's not like that, but my wife just read a book called, what, Unwind or Unwound? You want to read this? Yeah, yeah. What's that? Yeah, it's the idea is that if parents don't want their teenagers, if their teenagers are annoying them, before a certain age, they can just send them off to be executed.
No, they don't get executed. The whole point is that they don't die.
No, their parts get used.
Yeah, but they don't die, because no life is lost. That's the whole point.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Anyway, so you can have your kid executed if they bug you. Which is actually a brilliant idea, but I just have so much trouble with plausibility on that one. You know, many parents, I mean, they all say they want to kill their kids, but really few of them actually do.
She's been named for a decade now, and no one's acknowledged the fact.
Okay. She's been stunted. Sci-fi term for age, you're no longer aging. Yeah.
I was gonna say she could, everyone in the world could be born with all the intelligence that they've gathered in that life already.
Okay.
You go through life kind of already knowing what's gonna happen and then trying to send you out and burning
What do you mean by that? You're reincarnated, or you mean that?
I guess like
Collective
if
knowledge.
you're born, you suddenly have all the knowledge of like a very certain.
Okay. You get implanted with you get matrix brain heart jump started into something, and you've got all this knowledge.
So she already knows the path her life is going to take, but she decides she doesn't want to follow that.
Okay.
She's
Let's
fighting.
see what you
Kind
said.
of a different
Okay.
side of that, but instead of like knowing like her whole life, but everyone in this world knows like everything that's happening. So it had like
Okay, it's a world of
no,
all
it's like a
omniscient
communal
people.
memory that everyone shares, but she wasn't born with it.
Okay. So we've got some really weird. Yeah, really weird Jungian stuff. Yeah. Okay, and she's not part of it. Okay. All right. Let's go to our urban fantasy dog. What is
Wait, what's
he?
your dark secret?
Yeah. Well, we wanted. Okay, go ahead. We can do a dark secret. Go ahead.
We don't know what no one knows she doesn't have it.
Okay, her dark secret is she does not have
A dark secret.
super knowledge. Yeah, we got so many places we go on this one. I'm really totally not feeling this one yet because I like the idea both of you're born with all this knowledge and then what do you do with it as a 9-year-old that knows, but it's so hard to work with determinism in a book that, like I'm not going to be, it's like the Adjustment Bureau sort of thing. I'm not going to follow what I'm told to do. Anyway, there's just, I don't feel something really is hooking me yet about this one, but we'll see. We'll give it one more round. Urban Fantasy Dog. This guy needs a story. So what's his dark secret? All right.
Some parts of this one, the world, these animals are getting more intelligent, humans aren't comfortable with the fact.
Okay.
But no one knows he's a dog, so he has this whole reporter thing going on while trying to protect his identity.
Okay, that can kind of work. That can kind of work. Yeah, he's like Ender's siblings thing going on. So that's a possibility. Put it there. Yeah. I love that. His sidekick is I love the idea that the human is the sidekick, but when they go out, everyone talks to the human and assumes the dog's just, because if he had a sentient dog, that would be bad, because the sentient dogs, have got this whole thing, okay?
I just came back.
Yeah.
What if the dog is so smart because he has the 9-year-old's intelligence?
All right, so we're going to split these two. And we're going to put these two in the same world. So this is where we're going. So this is moved to more SF, and this is merged. These two have merged in together. So you've got this.
The 9-year-old could be the sidekick.
This 9-year-old could be they could be a team where he has to find a human, and she has something like that. You could totally go somewhere with that. And then you've got these. I think these actually should be split. I don't think these should be the same. We can combine those. So let's go back to this one. All right. So let's really quickly take this one and let's start doing some of the stuff that I normally do. Like I said, we are going to dig deeply in future weeks into how to do each of these things. The problem is assigning you to do a novella and then saying, by the way, we'll talk about plot in week 5, leaves you in some kind of weird place, right? So I want to give you the quick version, and then we're going to dig in deep week by week. So the quick version of, let's take these two stories. These are the two I happen to like the most. You can totally do what you want with this. Okay? Any of these are up for grabs, by the way. In fact, if you all write the stories in these, they will all be different enough that it'll be fine. Okay? But let's take this one. Let's say, when I'm building this, the first thing I'll do is I'll open up a new file, and I'll write down plot, setting, character. All right? Now, plot, setting, character, I have, when I start a story, usually been working on it for a long time. I've been thinking about it. I've been having, an itch at my brain, and I usually have a few ideas. We're replicating that with this. We will pretend that I spent 6 months coming up with this idea. That's a doozy of an idea to take 6 months on. But we'll pretend that I did. And I will say, all right, the plot, all right, we're going to put a, this is not actually a romance plot, even though we wrote it up here. Because there is, but this is what I would call a big problem. Now, these are my own terms, because really you can call any problem in a novel the big problem, right? But for me, a big problem is, this is kind of my catch-all, where our main character has to accomplish a task, and they usually have a set amount of time before something happens. So the first thing I'm going to look for is, I'm going to say, what are the consequences? All right? What are the consequences? What's our time frame on this? Start brainstorming it with me. He's got to do this, or what?
He dies old and alone, full of regrets.
Okay, old and alone and full of regrets. Okay. All right. How much time does he have? And things like that.
Terminally ill. He's got maybe 6 months.
Okay. So potentially this. We don't have to take any of these.
He's got to do it before his younger self kills her.
What's that?
He's got to do it before his younger
Okay,
self
yeah.
kills her.
I think you could probably just use the easiest one being, this is have anyone read Terry Pratchett's Night Watch?
Yes.
Great book, highly recommended. It uses this style of plot. It's one of Terry Pratchett's very best books. The problem with it is it's much better if you've read the 2 or 3 leading up to it, starting with guards. So he's been set back in time, but if you give him not having power over the time travel, it happens once, and then he hits him this time. So then we have a time bomb for when the girl gets killed, girl dies. Now, one danger with this is, at this point, we don't have time to do this, I would decide that the danger here is of the other characters just becoming pawns, right? That we have one character and everybody else around them is not fully developed characters, that they are pawns. And that's a danger. Anytime you are making another character simply a plot hook only, you're going to have troubles with your story. This is most dangerous if you're writing the opposite gender of yourself. You will read many books where women write where there's this guy who's like a paragon of virtue and does nothing wrong and is gruff but vulnerable and never is really a character. And you will read lots of books by guys where the woman is basically this pretty ornament that gets moved around through the plot that everyone is striving after. These are both equally bad. They make for bad stories. They're going to make it weak. So anytime you've got this sort of plot that you're building, I suggest that it raise a flag, whether it's guy or girl saying, I've got a danger of making these plots like that. Make sense? If I were writing a novel, my immediate reaction to that would be make this person a viewpoint character so that they can have their own passion, life, and things like this that I can show through their eyes, which allows them to balance. I don't know if it would work in this story. All right? One thing that I would then do is, all right, we've kind of got our time bomb. We've got how much time it takes. I would then start writing and brainstorming under here problems that can happen with this, or steps and milestones along the way. This is how I personally plot. We'll dig into a lot of different plotting mechanisms. But for me, it's like, all right, what's a milestone? What we're trying to do. So what's our goal? What's our goal? Let's get there first. What's our goal in this story?
Get him to get the younger self with the girl.
Get him to get the younger self with the girl. Okay? What's our twist on that?
He's got to do it in a way that he doesn't kill her.
Okay, he doesn't kill her?
I think in the end, he should realize that he's not right for her, because he's lived his life, knows what he's going to do.
Right.
And he's the one who, in his past, convinced the girl not to get with him.
Okay, so you can totally, that's cool. We're going to go here. These are options. So you could go with the sort of, this is a time travel archetype that I caused it in the first place, but I caused it. If you're going to do that, let me give a warning, and this will be helpful for you. Because that is a cliche, doesn't mean it's not something you can do. But because that is a cliche, you want your story to not be about that. Because that will then, they'll be like, oh, I just expected that. Therefore, in this case, I would move a relationship plot to be the forefront. Okay? Now, the one thing I thought of when I was doing this, we'll get to all of your ideas too. I want to throw another one in here, is I would think it'd be really cool if we bumped the age of both him and the girl up to maybe like 25, and we have it be she falls in love with the 65-year-old him. What? You can totally have that. It's creepy, but it can go. So the reason for this, what's that? Yeah, as long as she's older than 18, then you've got sort of a twist plot where he's trying to convince her, it's sort of Cyrano, right? Yeah. It's a Cyrano plot. He works so hard to get her to fall in love with his younger self, and she falls in love with him instead. In that case, you probably, to make this work, would probably want to make him like 35 and her 25, because it's for the teen audience, and something like that. I don't know, but you can have that reversal. Okay, let's find other answers for the ending.
If we stick with the old man, perhaps him, changing his own past will erase him, like our perspective character of history.
Right.
So we have like this tension between, do I want my happiness or do I want to continue existing?
Okay, this goes under here, and it is exactly the sort of thing I'm looking for, is this will erase me. Which is great. That goes under character, you see. We can definitely build some plot out of that, but this is a character tension issue that if I succeed, I'm erased. Okay? What other things?
I was thinking if he came back more as a consciousness and just put him with somebody else, that he comes back as her boyfriend. So he has to get her to stick with him until the exact moment that he needs her to switch over to his old self.
Okay. That would work a lot better for the audience, the teen romance, because then your characters are all teenagers, even though one is 65. No one seemed to care that Edward's 300, right? It looks like he's 17, so it's okay. It's not pedophilia. Sorry, Stephanie, if you're watching. So in this, you've got, so in the end, what is your end game for that story?
The end game is that, well, because like he needs to get her to go away from the old boyfriend.
Right.
Right? So, but he can't be a jerk too soon, otherwise he can't guide her to the right spot.
This one would work really well with the reversal one I was doing, though, also, where he's sent back into the body of somebody else, and then he's 17, so it's okay, for some reason. I think people accept it, and then she falls in love with him instead, despite his best efforts. It's Marty McFly, and then he, right? It's that becomes Marty McFly plot, yeah.
Or he realizes for whatever reason that she still has to die. That for whatever reason, for things that he does in his life or things that would happen if she was alive, that she still needs to die.
Okay, so you've got the determinism time travel plot, which is another archetype of time travel. If you're going to use one of these archetypes that's been done so often in time travel, my warning to you again is, at that point, see what I'm doing here? I'm looking for what promise I want to fulfill at the end, and I'm going to build my story, because I build my stories backward. Not everyone does it. In fact, I don't know that many people do. But in the short, we're going to give you my method. I look for what great ending I want to have, and then I know what promises to make through the course of the novel. If this is a big problem novel, if this is all about, if it's a we need to achieve this goal, it's very different. The big problem style of this is more, he goes back and behind the scenes, maybe with some other people, is toying and twisting and trying to get these two people together without ever being seen. That's a big problem in that we are striving to accomplish this goal. Where it's something like this, then it needs to be deeply him with either his old self, trying to convince his old self to be a better person, which would be a very good one for this. Where it's, I'm going to go back and I'm going to change him, I'm going to mentor him, and it's a relationship plot that eventually it has the climax where the character does not change, and he then gets her to break up with him and go away so she doesn't get killed. Then the relationship is the important thing, not the big problem. Do you see why I'm pushing it one way or the other on this? Is this helping? All right. Other ideas on how this would go? Yes.
I would like to see his pirate background be brought in, like maybe there's some tension between choosing the girl and choosing this treasure that he also went back to find.
Right. He's got to have like chosen the treasure over here.
And he lost the treasure.
Yeah, and then, well, no, I think that it's better if he had the treasure his whole life and it made him miserable. That's why he spends his treasure on time travel, yeah.
But the treasure made him happy, and that's part of the goal.
Okay, well, maybe, potentially. If he wants to try and keep both. Can I keep both? Right.
I'm going to throw another conflict in here. What if he had to make some kind of Faustian deal to go back?
Okay.
And whoever he made the deal with is forcing some of these time travel tropes.
Okay, yeah.
So, not only does he want to get the girl, but he needs to, cheat things.
Okay, so you could, if you were going to write this, you would go another layer out to the self-aware. Yeah. And you would have the devil coming in and saying, why don't you just cause it? That's a great ending. It works like this. And he realizes that the Faustian whatever is ahead of him a few steps and things. That's getting really out there. All right, let's do a few more of these. We're going to go here, here, and then here, and then we're going to be done, okay?
What if it's the second time around? So the first time he goes back in time, so originally she doesn't die, but they don't get together. He's already gone back in time once, and they got together, but she died.
Okay.
The second time,
So you start the story with her dying and him failing to save her, and then demanding another chance, and it 12 Monkey style, I'm jumping back, but it's getting harder and harder, something like that. Okay, who else was over here? I had 3 people. Yeah, go ahead.
maybe in order to get the treasure that he had to unleash some kind of magic, which ended up killing someone, which happened to be the girl. And maybe they already love at the time, and she decided to die for him to have his treasure. And so this old guy has to come in and decide, try to stop it from using the magic, but in the end, maybe it kills the old guy instead.
Okay, okay. And there was one more right here.
What if it didn't kill her, and the reason he's going back is because he made her really mad in the past and he wants her later, like recording in nail time.
Okay.
You know that, and she comes back too, and she's trying to make this stop happen.
Okay.
And then,
we're scumbag. Yeah.
Yeah, but she's really mad at him. The old one, but then she falls in love with him through the process, and they get together.
Okay, so they get together as adults later on. That's a great twist. I like that one a lot. So in that one, you do pull the big problem thing. He's trying to pull the strings behind the scenes. She comes back to him and tries to stop it. And the two of them fall in love as their younger selves do whatever. That could be really cool. They could be really hard, but that could be really cool. Okay. So at this point in our decision-making process, I'm going to decide based on genre, the type of story I want to write, and just what strikes me, which of these to pick. This is just me. Now, you discovery writers, it might be good to have one of these in mind and then start going. What I then do is I kind of build that, the idea of the points of the map plot device, where I'm like, all right, I know I'm going to be here. I know this is my ending. My ending is, you know, they fall in love as adults, and the kids, you know, whatever. They could either fall in love, or they could decide to shoot each other, but you realize this time travel works in the multiverse version, which is, you know, we have a different timeline, branching timeline sort of thing. You just come up with your rules for it, and you let the young kids kill each other, and you go off into, you know, become space pirates together, and you know, something like that. That could be pretty cool. And so I would decide that, and then I would decide which of these style it is. If it's a big problem, then I'm like, all right, what are my pieces along the way? What's point number one? What do I need to achieve in order to make this happen at the end? What are my, thank you very much. I would have, I see do it, but you have to go past it. So. How do I break this up, in other words? Now that I know it's a big problem plot, or a relationship plot, how do I break this up into incremental steps? Along the way, some of them being steps forward, some of them being steps back. What are my major, and we're not going to go into these because we don't have time, but what are my major complications that we get thrown into this? What goes wrong at various points? What are my steps along the way that I can say, wow, we're progressing toward this working? This is what I'm looking for here. Setting. Let's talk about setting. We didn't do a lot of setting here. We know we have pirates, and we know we have time travel. All right. So, what era of technology is this? Are these space pirates? Are these steampunk pirates? What is this?
Space pirates.
Okay, so we're pretty much going space pirates. All right. So this is an SF setting. Next, I'm going to pick my tone. Oh, I erased it, of the setting. What tone of setting am I going for? Is this hard science fiction? No. Probably not. All right, what's left? Is this military SF? No. Military SF being the guns and what they do are all really important. And we get them right. Is this space opera? Space opera is the subgenre of we have fun in space and there's usually explosions and we don't explain it. Okay, so we're just going to go space opera. All right. And it's totally possible to do a hybrid, like a John Scalzi, that's half space opera and half military SF or something like that. But I do think space opera kind of fits this. For those who aren't familiar with it, we'll talk about genre eventually and things like this, maybe if we have time. But the idea for space opera is you don't sweat the small stuff in space opera. It's adventure fiction in space. It's Flash Gordon. It's Star Wars. It's things like this. The original Star Trek was one of these hybrids that's like 1 foot in military SF, but it's really a space opera with kind of a military SF veneer painted on it. You know, when you can throw giant foam rocks at lizard men, you're probably space opera, okay? In military SF, you are shooting the lizard men with very accurate rifles in a formation and having tension between you and the officers. And then in hard SF, you were trying to figure out why the lizard men are trying to eat you and their biology. So that's kind of the difference between the three genres said very, very simply, okay? So space opera, all right. What's a cool setting book? What drives, so what's gonna be different about this space opera than other ones?
They have time travel.
Okay, they have time travel. What does it, wait, so what if that's their technology? Your ship is powered by time travel. What's that? Powered by time somehow? Can you come up with a cool concept? You'd have to work on this for a while. Is time, you know, do you have like a little singularity in your ship that you carry around with you, and you like your ship is something, or there's a big one, and I don't know. How does your ship work? In space opera, we're looking for rules that we can be consistent about, but which do not have to conform to actual laws of physics. Okay? I would be asking myself these things, and I don't think we have time to really work this all out. But I'm going to be looking for, you know, what does it mean to be a space pirate, right? What is it? What are they pirating? If you kind of got to be aware of the economics of these things. Space piracy is really ridiculous. Okay? Let's just go ahead and step aside and have this aside where we acknowledge it's ridiculous. The actual energy cost, even for a future society, to get a ship into space and to go around is worth more than any cargo the ship can carry. Okay? All right? We've got to acknowledge that, at least in the backs of our heads. So we have to come up with some reason that we have space piracy and space pirates. And yes, we're going to ignore the fact that the real economics of it mean that none of this could ever actually happen.
But it was like
yes.
religious artifacts, so they were priceless.
Okay, religious artifacts? Okay, okay. The problem with religious artifacts being priceless is somebody has to pay for them. So who is paying to make the space pirate? So you have to kind of start asking these questions. You need some foundation of an economics. The spice that Frank Herbert came up with was a great reason for some of these things to happen, because it is an invaluable resource that allows FTL and you to cheat the energy cost of going between planets, and so therefore it's a shortcut. Yeah.
Oxygen isn't as available as we'd like it.
Okay.
Piracy.
Okay, oxygen piracy. You're gonna have a hard time convincing me of that they have space travel, but not electrolysis to make oxygen, right? But it could be an argument. I mean, there was that movie Ice Pirates, right? Where they were stealing ice. Yeah. Right. Well, then you have time travel has to have some sort of rules or laws, and we would have to get into that.
Say forget the treasure and say he steals the ship.
Steals the ship.
And he doesn't know how to work it, but he's learning.
Okay, but he's in it. Okay, so early days they stole the ship. He's going back in time to a stolen ship that now he knows how to work perfectly, but when he first got it, he didn't know how to, and the ship could be the treasure. That could be kind of cool. That worked really well. Did you have something over here? Let's go right here, and then we'll work our way that way.
It's going to be a privateer funded by some sort.
Okay, it could be a privateer funded by the government, which comes up with a really great economy for this sort of thing. He is disrupting cargo shipping between planets in another empire, so he's a privateer. Yeah.
His past self has to rob his future self in the past.
Wow. Okay, you go ahead and work on that one. Right here. We'll get to both of you. Guy in the white first, and then checkered shirt.
Okay, it's like Firefly. They're just trying to keep going and like feed themselves.
Okay, okay. Just trying to keep going and feed themselves. Checkered shirt guy.
Yes. So planets have like notes, singing music that comes out of them when they orbit, and that frequencies can be used. One-time frequencies can be used. Great time travel. And
Okay. Okay, that's kind of cool. Right over here.
Going back to the artifacts, taken in a different direction. The ships are powered by the artifacts. The artifacts themselves do a bunch of weird things, enabling time travel and also faster than light travel.
Okay, okay. See, that's
a weird side effect.
That's actually pretty good too. I like that one. I like the ship itself being the treasure. Either way, any of these ways are ways to go. The privateer thing pushes a little bit more toward military SF, where you're going to do the military stuff. This, you're like, they plunder planets, they get these devices, they power spaceship travel. He's a pirate that steals these things. He gets one, puts it in his ship, and it sends him back in time unexpectedly instead. You suddenly have a very nice intro into a story for that.
Well, and that would also lead to a plot because now you only have as long as that device lasts.
Yeah.
Before you have to go get a new one.
Yep. So, all right, way in the back. Is that Jen? Hi,
Yep,
Jen.
hi. I like the idea of a combined pirate settler ship. So they were trying to travel to this planet that they were going to settle on, but it turned out that the planet was completely uninhabitable. So now they're forced to go prey on other settler ships until they find an inhabitable planet.
Okay, cool. All right, so all of these things give us some setting feel for this. The most important one for me is to decide this kind of genre, just because you don't need to be bound by genre. Don't feel that you have to. The nice thing about science fiction and fantasy is we're basically all shelved in the same place. Right? Right next to each other. If it has some sort of weird sci-fi stuff, they just put it over there and hope that we'll leave them alone. Right? That is different in over here, where they are segregating by age and sometimes by subgenre nowadays. If you walk into your bookstore, you will find a teen romance section. You will find a teen adventure fiction section. Every time something gets big, they make a new section. The teen romance section is these books are like Twilight, we promise. And the teen adventure section is these books are like Hunger Games, we promise. Right? So be aware that that's happening. That's a real issue that you should be aware of. Shouldn't really change what you want to write, but when you're writing something, being aware of this can kind of help you. And I would say, okay, this science fiction space opera thing, I want to, where do I want to be shelved? Space opera is nice. I probably want to keep a light hand on some of these things for my target audience, since this is primarily a romance in my head. Therefore, I don't want to spend a ton of time on all the world building stuff and things like that. These are going to help me inform writing a book to fit my audience. However, if I decide, no, the book I really want to write is this more privateer one that's going to be more hardcore, I'm just going to write it. And it's going to be, we're going to use more of the military customs. We're going to do something more along the lines of, kind of taking Napoleonic Wars era stuff and turning it into a science fiction space opera and using these same sort of things. We call people lieutenants instead and whatnot. And we're very worried about, how much per year we're going to have and whether our first mate is going to get his own ship or not in the pirate fleet. Or going pirate is a really big deal, whatever. Then I'll do it. I'll just go ahead and do it. But being aware of these things is important. And then character at the bottom. This is all going to inform character. So it's kind of interesting. We started with brainstorming character, and now the last one I'm going to do is character. When I'm really doing this myself, I'm jumping between these three a lot. And I'm spending usually several weeks building this thing out and coming up with subplots and having them affect the characters. But here, I would decide, what exactly the character wants. What the character wants is, to do his life over again. And at the end, if he decides, I would rather be erased and let this life go forward, that would be a really interesting ending to this story. Where, halfway through I make it a complication, where he finds out it's going to erase him. But he then decides he wants to go forward because his life has been so miserable, even though he won the treasure at the beginning. He was a foul person. It made him terrible. He was young and idealistic, and it ruined him or whatever. And that's a nice character arc. I will build that character out and decide how to bracket that character climax. And at the end, what I'm really doing is I'm having a whole bunch of bullet points under things here, mainly plot and character, but also things I need to reveal about the setting. And these are my lists of goals to accomplish in the book. Okay? And when I write a book, a chapter, I'll be like, all right, here is step number 1 toward accomplishing this. And here is a character arc point for this character. And for character 2, here is one of theirs. I will combine these 3. I will decide where I can set it in the setting that will reveal something about the setting, and I'll write a chapter trying to achieve 1, 2, and 3, and see how it works. It's kind of like I just got these 3 things, and for that moment, those 3 things are what make that chapter. And then when I write the next chapter, if I achieve these things, I'll go to the next one and be like, all right, we need to get this complication in. I need to foreshadow a little bit more about the time travel mechanics so that the ending works. And I need this other relationship thing where he's arguing with this other person to build tension there. Let's grab those three things, put them together, and build a chapter out of them. This is how I do it. Other people do it very differently, and we'll talk about that. But that's how I would go forward with this story. All right? So, you, if you're not sure what to write, can take any of this or none of it. We brainstormed it together and just go forward with it. Or you can take this one that we're not going to spend some time on right now, and you can say, I am going to take this idea, and I'm going to do this for this one, and then start writing that one. Or you can do none of the above. Let me see, did I bring, where's my back? Over here. So, I think I brought these. If I didn't, I'll try and bring them next week. So I could have sworn I threw them in my backpack. Maybe I didn't. I'll tell you because it's funny. I teach gospel doctrine. And I used them for slave labor to come up with writing prompts for you guys because it worked into the lesson. They were supposed to be confused at why I was asking all these questions because it was the whole story of, sometimes you don't see the ending and, whatnot and things like that. I didn't bring them. I'll get them out for next time. So I had my gospel doctrine class write the writing prompts that you can then use as character hooks. So I'll try and bring those in. Write that down. I think you can get me to remember that. Yeah, I asked them their most awkward moment that they feel comfortable sharing if it were going to be read out loud. So they didn't get through the weird things and something they were scared of as a child and some stuff like that. Anyway, all right, let's go ahead and do questions for the last 10 minutes or so of class and see what you guys want me to talk about. Try maybe to theme it towards starting your stories because, if you ask me, how do I get an agent? I will say, well, I have a lecture about that and we will talk about it eventually. So, what are you guys curious about knowing that'll help you? Yeah.
How do you balance dialogue and description?
Oh boy. So, it's a good question. It's a really good question. In fact, I usually refer to this, sorry you guys in the splash zone, watch out. I feel this is the grand skill of somebody who writes speculative fiction. The ability to get across your world building in a method that is non-obtrusive, but still gets the information to them. And next week's lecture is going to be our first setting lecture, and it is not going to focus on world building. It's going to focus on this. Next week we will talk about. You can write this down and keep me honest on it. But we are going to talk about learning curve. We are going to talk about writing description that'll work and getting your setting across, and these sorts of things. So let's go ahead and shove that one for next week. I'll talk for a good half hour, 45 minutes on that topic, because if you can figure out how to do that, if you can figure out how to get across an interesting viewpoint without making the reader laden with information, yet still slipping it across to them, that alone will sell you books. Because so many people are so bad at it. And if you can be good at it, it's awesome. All right, so other questions? Yes? Oh, is that clock slow? Oh, that's right, it didn't work last time. So we've got 20 minutes? It's 6:30, so we're out of time. All right then, go ahead, go away, yay, okay. Turn these in up here, right here, if you want your credit for this week. Everybody who's in the workshop, go to the other room, and I'll meet you there before we split up.